welcome back to Sweet Tree Hill Farm and to Shepherd's Knitting School. I hope all of y'all are doing fine. Today I'm going to be introducing you to the Purl Stitch and to the second project. Second project, as I promised, is a fingerless glove, or fingerless gloves. There'll be two of them, I promise. Alrighty, so that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to show you a little bit more close-up of what the glove looks like in just a moment. So two skills we'll be working on to do this project. We'll learn the first one today, and that is to do the purl stitch. Okay, so purl stitch is not hard, and it's basically, once you know the purl stitch and the knit stitch, you'll be ready to start creating stitches, different types of stitches in your knitting. So what you're going to be doing for this fingerless glove is you'll be doing the garter stitch again that you already learned in the last project, and also what's called the stockinette stitch, which is a flatter stitch, which is the most common stitch, I believe, in knitting, is the stockinette stitch. And what that is knitting on the front and purling on the back side of your work. And we're going to talk more about that later. Another thing I'd like to do is share with you what's been going on the farm since I last recorded. We've had quite an eventful couple of weeks. I think it's almost been 3 weeks. First of all, we had our last lambs for the season. They were finally born weeks and weeks after the previous lambs, which was kind of surprising. But they're beautiful. They're twins. They're little brown twins, a boy and a girl, Teddy or Theodore and Thelma. And they were born to Thistle. And she's been a great mom. And just to tell you a little bit about him, the little girl she's very prissy and petite and very ladylike. And Teddy is a rambunctious little boy. And his favorite thing is to be able to escape underneath the fence while I'm feeding everybody grain, and he steals grain by himself in the bucket while I'm filling the troughs for the other sheep. So he's a bit of a character, and of course it's always fun to have a silly little lamb on the farm. It just makes life, fun and happy and brings a lot of joy. So that's our big news, second big news, and why we're here. And by the way, this part of the farm is called Shepherd's Pond. All right, it's part of an 8-acre pond that was made in the 50s, I believe, or 40s perhaps. We're sitting on the dam right here. And what this spot is going to be a private fishing area for campers. We're going to be having a private camp we're going to offer for people to come and visit the farm, and they can camp in our meadow. It's a beautiful meadow. It's tons of birds, and then just a short walk through the woods along a creek, you come here. And we'll have a picnic table set up, and you can do fishing off the shore, but we'll also have a boat available, and it's a very easy area to launch a boat here. And so that's something that's been in the works, and we're finally getting close. We're finally getting close to getting it all pulled together. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the future as we get things finished up, and perhaps be something you might want to consider doing if you've ever wanted to visit a sheep farm. And so again, we'll tell you a little bit more about that. Okay, so we're going to get started and start working on our glove. First, we're going to learn how to do the purl stitch, and I'll get you started on the very beginning part of the glove. And in our next podcast, I'll take you further into the project and show you how to purl and knit in the same row. And so I know it sounds a little but anyway, I hope you enjoy this project, and I hope you share these videos with friends that perhaps want to learn how to knit or want to be reintroduced to knitting. Okay, so let's get started. Hi, so we are ready to get started with project number 2, and believe it or not, I know we discussed it the last time, but we are actually going to do fingerless gloves. That's what these are. Okay, and as you can see, we've got just a little bit of an interesting texture right here going up the top of the glove. I'll put it on so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. Okay, whoops, not quite on straight. There we go. Okay, so there you go. So it's not too difficult. The angle of the camera is a little awkward, but I do apologize for that. Okay, so that we have a hole here, and that's basically formed by simply seaming. So we just sort of seam up the side, and then starting from the top and seam down this part of it, and there you go. And this part of it is stockinette stitch, and that's what you're going to learn how to do purl. And purl, along with the knit stitch, will allow you to create what's called the stockinette stitch, as you can see. But I wanted you to also have an understanding, since last time, remember, we did garter stitch, and garter stitch is stitching on the front and the back of your work, and that creates this ripple effect. Well, I thought it's kind of a design element, and we can incorporate that into our gloves. And it also gives sort of cements in your mind the difference between stockinette. As you can see, that's sort of a nice smooth texture. As you know, you just sort of see these little V's in there. And then you have your garter, which creates the ripple effect. And so now we have a design element. And then we also have a design element at the bottom. You're going to do stockinette, do just a little bit of you do garter stitch, you do a little bit of stockinette and then more garter, and it creates a nice little cuff for you. And then we also have just a little bit of garter stitch at the top, as you can see, and that will create a nice little edging. Alright, so let's get started. So what this is, this particular yarn, this is again worsted weight, alright, so medium weight yarn. This is also from our sheep. We have, as you know, Shetland sheep, and so what's wonderful about Shetland is they produce all these lovely different colors. And I know this is a speck dark against this background. I hope you can see it as we do the stitch. So let's go ahead and get started. So we'll go ahead and cast on just a few stitches so that we can learn what we're going to do. And so again, remember, we take our loop, wrap our fingers, and then bring it through, and that creates our first stitch. Alright, and then we're going to take that, I'm going to cinch it down just a speck. We're going to put it on this is a size 8 needle. Now for these gloves, you can do either an 8 or a 7 if you want it a little firmer fabric. Mine is sort of a springier, stretchier fabric, but you can make it a little slightly denser if you use a little bit smaller needle. So you can use a size 7 or you can even use a size 6. And so now what I'm going to do, we're just going to cast on a few stitches so I can show you how to do the purl stitch. Alright, so remember, we open our curtains, grab the ends at the bottom, we bring our yarn, our needle forward, alright, creating a V. We're going to lift up on the thumb, over on the index finger, and through that hole, through the loop that's on the thumb. So again, we're ready to go again. Lift up, over, and through. Alright, so let me go ahead, and we'll go ahead and do a few of those. As you can see, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do 8, 9, 10. So this is just for practice. Okay. Now, as you recall, we're going to bring and put the needle into our right hand. We're going to start off with a review of the knit stitch. All right. And so let's go ahead and do these 10 stitches with the knit stitch. Okay. So again, we're going to you're going to go to the left side of your loop, through, And then you're going to take your working yarn, the yarn that's attached to your ball, not the end, and you're going to wrap around. You're going to have your X here, wrap around the bottom needle, and then you're going to pull that through. Alright? So again, in through the front door, run around back, come back through that front door, and off jumps Jack. Alright? So we're going to do that. We're going to knit. And the reason why we're knitting first is so I can show you what we're going to do. Basically what we're going to accomplish is the stockinette stitch. And the stockinette stitch has two components. It's got the knit stitch on the front, and it's got the purl stitch on the back. Alright, so we've done our knit stitches, and we're going to switch, bring those needle with the stitches over to your left hand. Now we're going to purl. Now what some people think of as purling is backwards knitting, but that's actually not the case. What purling is more of an accurate way of thinking about it, is knitting backwards stockinette stitch. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do. Instead of going to the left side of the loop, we're going to go to the right side, and instead of going behind the needle in your left hand, we're going to go on top. So again, you use your index finger to kind of control the stitches that are on the needle, and you place your right needle to the right of that first stitch, and you're going to go through it from right to left on top. There's your cross right there. So you're going to, again, you're taking your working yarn, you're going to go around again, just like doing your knit stitch. You're going to go around. In fact, my brain is not functioning, excuse me. You want to make sure you go in front of this needle, the left needle. So you're going to go around the back side of that top, and you're going to bring it back just like you go back then from left to right. Alright, it's a little awkward at first because you're used to knitting but not used to purling. I had to think about it as I'm explaining it. I do it so often, but now I don't think about it, so I'm sorry if I kind of flubbed that a little. So again, we're going to go from right to left on top. Again, this yarn, by the way, is in front of your work, not behind it like you do for knitting. Alright, that's a little confusing. So everything is done on top, in front of you. And we're going to go around that needle on top, and we're sort of, the action is not so much pulling it from left to right, but mostly from front to back, as you can see. See, that's how you, that's the motion, that's what captures that stitch. We're still drawing loops through loops. It's just a different method, just a different technique. Okay, again, let's try it again. We're going to go from right to left. See, we got on top like that. And we're going to go around that needle. Make sure though you're on top. You don't want to go around this part. You want to go, you still want to keep the yarn in front of that left needle. You're going to keep everything in front. So, but you're going to go behind the right needle. Whoops, there you go. And then you're going to push the loop from front to back. Alright, so let's try it again. This is sort of what it looks like as you're working it. Alright, so we finished up the purl row. As you can see, it looks bumpy like the garter stitch, but that's on the back side. So we're going to turn it around, and now you see it looks a little flatter. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Alright, so it'll be a little bit more evidence once we do a couple more rows. So let's go ahead and get the, let's go ahead and knit again on the front. We're on the front side now. Alright, so we're going to knit these 10 stitches. Oops. Get this done real quick so we can get back to the purl side. And again, always double check to make sure you're using your working yarn and not your tail. I cannot tell you how many times I've done that. If you do it, don't feel bad. It happens to all of us. Alright, so now we're going to do another row of purl stitches. We're on the back side, as you can see. Alright, so now we're going to take our needle again. We're going on top of the left needle through the loop from right to left. There you go. Alright, you see that? Then you're going to take your working yarn. You're still on top of that left needle, so you go above it, but you go behind. So you go behind. Whoop. And then you're going to push that loop to the back. Alright? One more time. Around. And push it to the back. So that's purling. I hope I've explained that well enough. A lot of people don't like to purl. You know, you do it enough times, just like you knit. People find it a little easier. It just depends on how your hands. You know, your hands are. Everybody's architecture is unique, and some things are easier for some, and not so much for others. So, but like with anything else, practice. You know what I did? I ended up splitting that last one. I didn't get the whole stitch. Let me try that one more time. Alright, getting it back on the needle again. See, every now and again you got to pay attention. You don't want to split. If you find that happening, you want to make sure you get the whole yarn, you know, the loop in there. You want to make sure you're not getting just part of the yarn, but you want all the plies. Alright, there you go. Alright, so now we've finished another row, and so the stockinette should start to look a little clearer. And if you notice, one of the tendencies of stockinette, unlike garter stitch, is that it curls. So that's something to think about, and you can use that. In fact, we are going to use that element of stockinette stitch in our design for our fingerless glove, because as you can see, this right here, it curls, and we can use that as a way of kind of finishing off that thumb hole. Okay, so if you could practice that a little bit, and then as far as the project goes, I'm going to have some further instructions on my website, and I'll put the link below, and it's www.sweettreehillfarm.com. And and you just click on Shepherd's Knitting School, and I'm going to go over the instructions on how to get started. But basically, you're going to, just to get you started, it's basically just casting on 32 stitches, and you do 4 rows of garter stitch. Okay, and then you do a knit row, but then we do a purl row, but we include both knit and purl in the same row. And if you stay tuned, I'll go over that in the next video, where we learn how to do both knit and purl in the same row. And so there's a trick to it. So if you want to get started, practice your purling, and then we'll come back next time and we'll start our glove, and I'll take you through the first steps and get you to here so that you can continue on. Okay, but you're welcome to skip ahead if you want and read the instructions. I'll have those posted on the section, the section of my website. Okay. Well, great. I hope you got the hang of purling. And again, I would suggest perhaps practicing a little bit to get the hang of it. And you know, when you get a skein of yarn, by the way, this is a 200 yard skein. There's plenty of extra. You'll have plenty of extra for practicing a swatch or two if you feel like doing that before you jump into the project. All right. So please look for us again in about a week to 2 weeks, and we'll put together the conclusion of knitting our fingerless gloves, and we'll show you, we'll get you started on knitting and purling in the same row, and then we'll show you how to seam up so you can get your thumb here. Alrighty, and so please consider sharing this video with others that might be interested in knitting, and we look forward to seeing you again. Oh, one more thing, if you need some additional help, I will be posting more instructions on our website at sweettreehill.com, and click on Shepherd's Knitting School. I hope you all have a safe and happy couple of weeks, and I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.